All right. Uh, Hope you enjoyed your long break there. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce Cephas Simmons, who is the CEO of SealCath.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. Jason, thank you for the invitation. Do I share my screen? For some reason, it's telling me I'm disabled. Jason?
There you go. You should be able to save now or
Okay,
share now.
perfect, perfect. Thank you. All right. So again, my name is Cephas Simmons, and I'm the CEO of SealCath, and also the inventor of the double balloon catheter. There we go. I'm going to first tell you a little bit about myself. I've been in the medical field for over 30 years. I've been at the Medical University of Charleston, South Carolina for the last 25 years, where I've been in the Department of Radiology and Division of Pediatric and Abdominal Radiology. Also a professor of the School of Medicine at the Medical University. I've been working, performing procedures with colorectal conditions for quite some time. And for the past 20 years, I can say I've been doing a lot of them without having a catheter that could sufficiently fit the colorectal procedure protocol. The current product that we use causing a lot of leak and giving us suboptimal imaging. So after frustration and not being able to locate any product that I could use, I decided to invent my own double balloon catheter, colorectal catheter that would work. Since the invention started back in 2013 when I formed SealCath, we have gotten patent in the US and in Canada and have obtained a federal clearance. In 2019, we came out with the latex version of the Cephas catheter. And the problem that we had with the current product is that the Foley catheter could not provide the seal that we need. It leaked during every procedure. We got poor colonic distension. We're not able to identify some of the small lesions in colons because we didn't get good distensions. All these things hampered us and trying to make the best diagnostic yield that we could for our patients. In conjunction to that, when we were doing the procedures, we had to use tape and a few other things, squeezing the buttocks together to try to get the seal around the catheter, which I thought was a little barbaric, and that was one of the reasons why I thought something else needed to be done. With all these workarounds, it extended the procedure time in the room, where the prep time was extended, time of the procedure itself was extended, and because of all the leaks during the procedure, the post-procedure cleanup time took a lot longer. So getting the room turned over for the next procedure was hampering the whole process. So my solution was that the Cephas catheter we designed directly for colorectal use, and the catheter had two balloons that creates an optimal seal. The position of the balloons were unique to create a seal. As you can see from the diagram here, the CAD drawing, what they call here is a distal balloon. The distal balloon was designed from evaluating imaging of MR of the anus and the anal canal, and this was configured to where it fits into the rectum. And when you inflate it, it seals from the inside. The void here between the two catheters were designed where the internal sphincter of the anus would sit, so it won't disrupt or injure the sphincter itself. And then the very unique part of the catheter was the shape of the proximal balloon here, which the curvature here seats directly within the anal canal externally. So about half of this balloon would fit in the anal canal and seal from the outside. And then this portion of the balloon would anchor and keep this balloon from moving forward to where it continue to obtain the seal inside and the seal outside, which gives us the optimal seal. And with having the optimal seal, we're able to improve all of the procedures, the process of the procedure by reducing procedure time. By reducing procedure time, we also reduce the radiation dose of patient and to the medical professionals that's doing it, and improves the outcome of the case. For one instance, decreasing the surgical reduction for patients that's going through one of the applications, which is interception reduction. In those cases, if we can't get it reduced, the patient has to go to surgery to have it done. And by having a seal, it gives us a better opportunity to reduce those cases, those difficult cases, and prevent a patient from going to the OR. Any patient that goes to the OR usually have to stay in the hospital 2 to 3 days afterwards. With using the CFIS catheter, usually once the procedure is reduced, the patient goes home in 2 to 3 hours. Also increases the diagnostic yield in colorectal procedures. And those procedures, we are required to have a full distension of the colon in order to identify small lesions within the colon. And if the bowel is not distended enough, those lesions we can miss and not be able to add it to our dictation. So by having good distension, there gives us a better yield and better opportunity to take care of our patient properly. The business model for the SealCath is very low budget and low overhead. Basically, the staff members, myself and my wife, which runs the business, and I'm the CEO. The manufacturers are OEM manufacturers. For the latex version, we have BD Medical that makes it for us. And for the latex version, we have Spectrum Plastic Group. And basically, both of those companies, they make the products for us. And for small orders, they ship it to me and I get it to my customers. Or for large orders, they directly drop ship them for us. Marketing, for the last year, since a year and a half since the product's been out, marketing has been directed at radiologists, and we're looking to expand the marketing to pediatric surgeons, gastroenterologists, and physician office that performs the procedures that we are applicable for. And we're looking to expand this in the end of this year or first quarter of next year. As you know, the product itself is a medical device, so we only sell to hospital and medical practices. In addition, we go to professional conferences and we present there, and we do exhibits to where we get the awareness out and let people know that we have a product that will be better treatment for their patients and better for them to use. Also, social media we use as a mode of advertisement, as well as our website. The goal for the SealCath is to have the CFIS catheter replace the Foley catheter for all its colorectal procedures. We all know about the Foley catheter. We all know the name. So it's well known, and we know that it's very cheap. It's been on the market for over 70 years. So they don't have a covered patent anymore. So companies can make it. So competition drives down price. So the cost is going to be a lot less than what you can get the CFIS catheter for. The weakness for the Foley catheter is that it was designed for urinary bladder use. It does not create a seal. It wasn't designed to create a seal. And for colorectal procedures, it's very suboptimal with its performance. Like I said earlier, the Foley catheter was designed for urinary bladder use, and it does a great job of that. So as long as we stay in our applicable area, the design for it works very well. What I'm trying to get home here is that the CFIS catheter was designed for colorectal procedure, and I think it does a great job there. Our team itself, again, the management team, as you saw on the business model, and in conjunction with that, we have a board of directors and board of advisors, and those members we selected to fulfill some of the void that myself or my wife, which is the business manager, doesn't have. Some of those are engineering experience. We have someone with an MBA, two with an MBA, one that knows more about technology, and another one that knows more about investment. And those are the kind of people that we needed to try to help us to maneuver the business to where we can get it in a position to keep increasing visibility and insurability. So within 4 years of getting the silicone catheter to the market, we're looking to have a gross margin profit of 6.2 million. And in order to capture that, we would have to capture 20% of the market for interception reduction, 10% of the market for rectal contrast CT scans, 35% of the market of mucus fistula refeeds, 10% of the market for barium enemas, and 15% of the market for virtual colonoscopies. Right now, the latex version came on the market in 2019. We were doing well until the pandemic hit, and that shut us down for a little while, but we're seeing growth again now. And the silicone version of the Cephas catheter is projected to enter the market the fourth quarter of this year. Also in the fourth quarter of this year, we're looking to complete all the documentation, partnership, and distribution information that we need for Canadian exportation, and looking to sell in the Canadian market in the first quarter of 2025. The use of the fund from this pitch would be used for the cost of R&D for the silicone version, which would aid in keeping our commercialization on target. And I thank you very much for listening to me and the opportunity for speaking to you today. Wanted to say thank you for letting me introduce myself, my company, my product, and to let you know one last note that SealCath is where perfect seals are created. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Cephas, very much. We have a few minutes for questions from the judges.
Hi, this is John Newby. Thanks so much for the presentation. Really good job. Just one question. You did give us some revenue projections. What is the, how many potential doctors, radiologists, pediatric surgeons, gerontologists, what are the numbers out there nationwide that are potential targets?
Well, that number is exponential. What we're looking for more than looking for the radiologist itself is getting it into the hospital system. Since all the radiologists works in a hospital system that uses this product, getting into the hospitals is the way to increase the revenue. So basically right now, we are already in 8 hospitals. We have 7 hospitals that's waiting. Am I answering your question?
Yeah, no, actually, my question was improperly worded. Let me say it differently. How many, have you calculated the number of potential procedures cumulative that this could be used for, or some basis of numbers? That what I'm trying to find is the basis for your.
Yeah, if we go back to the slide here, basically on this slide it shows that
okay,
in the US, interception reduction is about 80,000 cases that's performed.
Got it.
And the market share to reach this goal is to get 20% of that.
Thank you. I missed that.
No problem.
Hi, Steve. This is Ashley Hancock. Can you tell us about your future staffing plans? How do you see the growth unrolling, and how are you going to handle that?
Well, I do see the growth that's going to increase tremendously. Number one, I am going to become a full-time CEO starting September. I'm retiring from my clinical position. Number two, we're in the process of talking to a distributor now within the US that's going to cover 7 states for me. They have their own sales force. And then maybe next year we'll add another distributor. So we're looking at all those entities as far as increasing as the demand increases. And as far as the Canadian exporting to Canada, we're building a partnership with a distributor in Canada that will be able to handle the distribution over there.
Okay, thank you. Nice job.
Thank you.
We probably have time for one more question if we want to get one in.
I'm sorry, just for clarification on your patent, is it issued or is it pending?
Both are issued.
Thank
you. US and Canada.
Okay. Well, if no other questions, thank you, Cephas. Really appreciate your presentation today. I'm going to unshare your screen there. And our next presentation is Jurata Thin Film, and presenting today is Sheila McHale. Sheila, you are on mute.
There, can you hear me now?
Oh, we can hear you now, yes.
Can you see the presentation?
It looks like it's coming up. Yep, we've got it.
Good. So the stress points are over.
Yes.
Thank you very much for allowing me to present Jurata Thin Film today. Hang on real quick. Okay, I'll do it this way. Okay, there we go. COVID-19 has eliminated the shortcomings of worldwide pharmaceutical supply chain, distribution, and storage. The current process of distributing the vaccine was very complicated. It had many steps, and many of the complications were due to the use of glass vials, the need for specialized freezers, temperature-controlled transportation, significant cargo space was required. We had to do multiple shipments in order to mitigate the risk of temperature failure. The bottom line, it was very costly and time-consuming to get the vaccine to us. So what if we could remove cold storage requirements while maintaining stability, potency, safety, and overall therapeutic quality? And as an additional benefit, what in doing so, we could avoid vaccine shots and instead receive our vaccines orally. We're basically asking, what if we can solve the biggest challenge facing biological packaging and distribution, and in the process provide better drug delivery? I want to introduce you to MSI-TX thin film technology. We believe it revolutionizes drug distribution and delivery. Our thin film technology eliminates the needs for glass vials. It does not require freezers. It does not require any special shipping or storage requirements. It maintains therapeutic potency, even though it takes away the freezers. And our thin film technology is exclusively licensed from the University of Texas. There are 3 patents awarded on the technology. It was developed for Ebola and flu vaccines, so it was developed in conjunction with NIH, but it appears to safely and reliably store any type of stabilized vaccines or biologic at room temperature. It's easily manufactured. It can be manufactured in a very simple process and within 3 to 4 hours, drying at room temperature without lyophilization. It's easy to use. You take our thin film and it's easy to rehydrate. Just take seconds or minutes to recover a vaccine for administration. It's affordable at the current scale, and we are scaling it up to drop down these costs even more. It's 6 to 10 cents per dose. And the other benefit is it appears to convert delivery of drugs from intramuscular injection to oral delivery with the same potency. We were recently recognized by Johnson & Johnson for innovation in their next generation supply chain quickfire challenge. We have tested the thin film technology at a wide variety of temperatures, extremes from a negative 112 degrees Fahrenheit to the other end of the spectrum at 140 degrees Fahrenheit. We have also had several different freeze and thaw cycles, and we've demonstrated there's no impact to therapeutic quality in 16 freeze thaw cycles. And we believe that this is revolutionary because our thin film can transport vaccines easily and widely. We can use the existing global transportation infrastructure for distribution and eliminate the cold chain requirements. We can reach any destination without losing therapeutic quality. We can use FedEx, UPS, DHL. There is no specialized on-site storage requirements. And this is beneficial for healthcare workers because it increases the ability to have access by remote populations, and it simplifies administration of the drugs. We have demonstrated scientifically that regardless of temperature exposure, we get over 90% of the viral payload, even though there's multiple freeze-thaw cycles. A single dose cut from a film can be rehydrated and used in most solutions in less than 15 minutes. There's no loss in therapeutic potency of the thin film vaccines, even when they're stored at room temperature for up to 3 years. And after rehydration, the therapeutic remains stable for 8 months at room temperature. This is our pyramid of value add. So of course, ambient storage and distribution is important because it avoids all the cold chain storage requirements. Needle-free administration is important because many patients are unwilling to take vaccines because they're scared of the needles. And so this is extremely beneficial, and it also decreases the burden on healthcare workers. Avoiding lyophilization is important because lyophilization is very expensive in terms of energy costs. And so that's an important cost savings to the industry. We estimated that for the current vaccine industry, which is increasing substantially because of COVID, that there's potentially an $8 billion savings by avoiding lyophilization. Also, mRNA therapeutics, while they have been revolutionary in the treatment of COVID, they have difficulty stabilizing the vaccines for long time periods, some instances longer than 30 days. And so our platform appears to stabilize the mRNA platform. This is our commercial development strategy. We're currently establishing a partnership with a global contract development and manufacturing organization to provide scaled up production services. In exchange, they will receive a share of our manufacturing revenue. We have a relatively simple regulatory path. It will be considered an excipient. We have outlined what's required for an IND filing. We have identified our funds necessary to bring our thin films into human clinical studies for approval. It will cost us approximately $5 million, and those are the funds we're looking for today. This is our team. Several of us have had experience starting companies, growing companies, and then exiting. Myself and my co-founder, Jude Samolsky, have started several companies, including most recently Bamboo Therapeutics, which we sold to Pfizer. We raised $5 million and sold it to Pfizer for $827 in 3 years. And AskBio, which we raised $235 million and sold for up to $4 billion, $2 billion upfront and an additional $2 billion in milestones. And we grew the company over a 4-year time period. Maria Coyle, a scientific founder from the inventor from the University of Texas, has also joined our team. And Megan Livingston is the boots on the ground. Megan came from Fuji and has experience in formulation technologies. We believe that our thin film technology ushers in a new era in biologic storage and distribution. We remove a majority of the supply chain and logistics challenges associated with moving drugs. We remove the need for lyophilization, dramatically increasing manufacturing efficiency and reducing costs. We can extend vaccine shelf life, and that facilitates stockpiling. We can remove dependency on a highly specialized infrastructure. We can circumvent possible packaging and administration material shortage in times of high market demand like COVID. And we potentially enable oral delivery versus an injection. Again, I want to thank the conference organizers for inviting us to present today. And I thank you for your time. I'll take any questions at this point.
We have about 5 minutes for questions from the judges. No questions. You must have done a great job.
That or I bored them.
That was a great job. But I do have a question. Sheila, would you mind going back to the use of funds, $5 million? I just wanted to take another
Yeah, here we go.
Yeah, so I think clearly you've got the majority of into R&D or development or these tox studies. The personnel costs seem quite low. Is that due to founder investment, or how are you able to keep those personnel costs so low?
Yes, the founders have basically been financially backing the company. We also generate revenues. So we have many research agreements in place with a wide variety of different pharmaceutical companies and veterinary companies. So we generate revenues from those contracts. And we're hoping long-term, right? Today, those are sort of research and development contracts. We maintained all the IP, so we were very careful about the IP coming back to Jurata from those engagements. But those bring in some revenues, and longer term, right, we hope to convert those into license agreements.
And this and that capital, that $5 million takes you, what's the timeline again?
Yeah, it's about 2.5 years.
Okay, thank you.
And can you elaborate on do you have marketing spend, or what does your marketing look like?
Yeah, no, so we don't at this point in time have a marketing spend. The relationship with the CDMO partner, they're actually going to incur all those costs. So the bottom line is we are expecting to use their distribution channel because they currently manufacture a lot of drugs for the COVID vaccine producers, and they also have connections to a lot of other vaccine drugs, right? So we will be leveraging largely off of their customer base initially. That's how we expect to introduce our product into the market.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you. That was a good question. Good. Okay. Well,
All right.
again, thank you so much for the opportunity to present today.
Thank you very much, Sheila. Appreciate it. So I don't like getting ahead. I've learned this lesson very badly. I know Justin is on, our next presenter, but again, I'm going to take just a few minutes break and then reconvene at about 10:30. All right, we'll go ahead and get back started. I'd like to introduce Justin Baba with Yaya Scientific. Justin. You are muted.
My apologies there.
There you go.
Make sure I can share my screen appropriately. And let me launch. All right, can you guys see my screen?
We sure can.
All right, super. All right, good morning still, everybody. It's my privilege this morning to represent Yaya Scientific. And we are a small minority-owned limited liability company based out of Nashville, Tennessee. And I am the founder and chief scientific officer. So what I want to talk to you today about is a problem that has to do with accidental nerve injury. So it turns out that 94% of accidental nerve damage is caused by surgical procedures. And here I have an image here from a thyroidectomy, which is a surgery on the thyroid, typically to remove thyroid cancer. And this is the view that the surgeon sees, and there are nerves in this view that are, even though I have labeled them, they are really difficult to pick out, even for a specialist. And so this is the problem that we're addressing. And the reason why it needs to be addressed is because with the visualization and identification being so difficult, oftentimes it's not uncommon for the nerve to completely be severed. Now, in the case of thyroidectomy, that comes at a great price in terms of a person could lose the ability to be able to speak, to swallow, if not outright, it could kill them, particularly if the vagus nerve is nicked. So even if the person does survive the surgery and they're able to fix any damage that may have occurred, it leads to chronic postoperative pain. And this typically requires that the person is on long-term pain meds. I don't know about you, but I have a loved one that had breast cancer, and to this day, they're on long-term pain meds post breast cancer surgery. And this really impacts quality of life. So the overall view of the problem is that 3.4 million cases of accidental nerve injury occur yearly due to medical intervention in the United States. And 16% of medical malpractice litigation is directly due to accidental nerve injury. So this is pretty significant. The direct costs are to the tune of $350,000 to for a surgeon on average. And it comes out to be that if it does go to a jury award, that on average surgeons are having to pay out $520,000 per case. Now, obviously, this doesn't come directly out of their pocket because they have medical insurance for it, but the medical insurance is a big issue. And as some of you might be aware of, this is one of the things that's impacting different medical specialties, such as OBGYN, while there are very few OBGYNs available just due to the high cost of litigation and having to carry so much medical insurance to mitigate against it. So our solution is that we're going to develop a technology that will help surgeons to be able to differentiate peripheral nerves from other tissues within the intraoperative field of view. And the additional benefit is that it will reduce the time required to perform the surgery, as well as reduce for the patient the amount of anesthesia that they're exposed to, And these have direct benefits. And our solution is called Pole DRS. And the direct benefits to the patient is less complications, the less time that you're under anesthesia, and the less time that it takes for the procedure to be completed. Overall, that is less complications for the patient and quicker recovery times for the patient. And likewise, for the healthcare delivery providers, it's reduced surgical cost and liability. So the solution that we're proposing is Pole DRS, which is a nerve mapping and visualization GPS, if you think of it in that regard. And here's a picture that kind of captures what we are putting together. This will be a portable unit that will go in the operating room, the OR, and can be positioned in place. And it is based off of two technologies. Now, without going into the details to bore you, the two technologies are polarized light and diffuse reflectance spectroscopy. So one gives you information about structure and alignment of things and morphology. The other one gives you information about biochemistry. So combining those two, we can do a really good job, much better than what is currently available. And here are some early results that we have. So this is a standard white light image of a surgical field of view. There's a nerve in the middle there that's identified. And then when you look at this same field of view, surgical field, but applying the polarization, you see that the contrast is significantly enhanced for the nerve. And likewise, when you then couple in the biochemistry information, you're now able to be able to distinguish nerve, which is in blue, from muscle, which is green, and fat, which is red. And with this, with our preliminary system, we've been able to demonstrate 95% accuracy. And a great advantage of our system is that it provides real-time GPS mapping, identification where the nerves are during surgery, and it definitely does save time for the operating procedures. So what's the market that we're looking at, and what's our value proposition? Well, the market that we're looking at for this straddles two technologies that are currently utilized in the operating room to tackle this. One is intraoperative nerve monitoring. Intraoperative nerve monitoring is probe-based, and that had a value of 1.24 billion in terms of market size as of 2015, and it has been growing steadily at 4.75%. And in fact, in recent reports, the CAGR is 6% growth since 2015. And then the other technology that's utilized is image-based guidance technologies that are based off of camera technologies, and this, as of this year, is estimated to be $1.17 billion in terms of camera guidance-based technologies for surgery, and the CAGR for that is 10%. Another market that we're looking at that this also applies to is the vet surgical market, and I'll touch on this a little later because it gives us opportunities for early deployment and also to generate some revenue while we wait on addressing the regulation requirements to get into the clinical market. Our competitive landscape is based off of IV injected dye-based techniques, and these are not ideal because people have allergies to some of these dyes. But furthermore, in terms of performance, they do a great job in terms of nerve visualization. They give you great contrast, which our system is able to match. However, they are, they have the downside of having to inject a contrast. So ours is non-invasive and non-contact. The other competition is probe-based systems that are actually based off of an electrical probe that you first of all have to identify the nerve, and then you put in probes into the nerve, and then you're able to use the surgeon can use an additional probe during the surgery to touch different structures and see if it lights up and gives them an indication that it could be nerve. And this has issues. I mean, it's not foolproof, but that is the competitive landscape that we have. And just to put this in context, our clinical collaborator at who's a throat and thyroid specialist at Vanderbilt University Medical Center said that if all we do is shave off 15 minutes from the procedure, that is very, very significant, because 15 minutes of OR time is quite a big cost savings, and also 15 minutes less time for a patient under anesthesia is very, very, very significant. So quickly here, our timeline is that beginning in January 2022, if we're able to raise the funds that we're looking for, we'll be able to accelerate our development, our R&D efforts. And in the first quarter, we'd be able to hire a software engineer outright that can help us do so we're going to utilize artificial intelligence software to enable the real-time feedback for the surgeon, which would be a video feed. And then our device qualifies for Apply for Safer Technologies program because it really mitigates it mitigates harm from therapies, and so it qualifies for that. And what that means for us is that it cuts down our FDA approval process time from 3 years on average to about 1.5 years. So within 1.5 years, we should be able to go through the process and get FDA 510K approval. And part of that will require us hiring, a consultant, FDA consultant, to help guide us through that process. Now, I've put down here that in year 2, we will begin to sell a non-regulated device to the vet market, and no FDA approval is required for that. And we have been in talks with veterinary providers and surgeons, and there's a strong interest for a product. And we estimate that we'll be able to have an income of $5.85 million in year 2 just from selling into the vet market. And then in year 3, we plan to have the actual clinically approved device marketed, and we can start selling and distributing to hospitals, and we expect to raise $4.5 million just from the regulated device. And that does not include what other additional sales we have from the non-regulated device. And so in terms of our projections, in 2022, we're going to be in the red because we're still in development phase and implementing. But we look to have revenues of $5.85 million in 2023 that would increase by 2026 to $47.8 million, almost $50 million. And this is based off of a combination of selling to the vet market, which will begin in 2023, and our income stream is going to be, we sell the unit to the vet market at $2,000 is the target price, which we've been told by vet providers is a good price point. And then for every use, there'll be a $1 charge of software, a $1 software charge. So that's where these numbers come from. And for the vet market, the actual utility is primarily going to be for nerve blocking procedures. Anytime an animal comes in and they're going to do a procedure, first thing they have to do is do a nerve block. So just 5 nerve block uses per day would meet our projections here.
Hey,
and
Justin,
so we're asking,
Justin, real quick, you're just about out of time.
All right. So we're asking for $5 million for 15% equity, and here's the breakdown. And then lastly, our team is myself. I'm a PhD biomedical engineer And then also we have a chief health and research integrity officer who has a MPH from Johns Hopkins. And then we have 2 other team members that did not provide their picture. All right, I'll end it there and entertain any questions. Thank you.
Actually, we're completely out of time, so we appreciate it. I think if there are any follow-up questions, I'll be sure to get them to you from the judges.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Justin. Our next presentation is Charles Kaplan with TruGenomix.
Good morning. Let me share my screen here.
Good morning.
Okay. Oops. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Well, good morning. Again, my name is Charles Kaplan, CEO of TruGenomix, the precision behavioral health company. And we have a vision of bringing mental and behavioral health into the 21st century. And our mission is to save lives and to reduce the stigma of behavioral health disorders such as PTSD through earlier, more effective diagnosis and treatment. I'm a veteran, served 23 years total between the Air Force and the U.S. Public Health Service. And this is a photo of me deploying to Ground Zero with the medical team. And we converted a bodega into a medical station for the volunteers and the first responders who were working down at Ground Zero. And I deployed as a preventive medicine officer for the team. And that event had a profound impact on me and my interest in behavioral health. And as you know, after that event, there were two wars that we were engaged in over the last 20 years. And the signature injuries of those wars have been post-traumatic stress disorder and PTSD and traumatic brain injury, which are known as the invisible wounds of war. So this is a photo of my friend Todd, who I met at Stanford University. And when he learned about what my company was working on, he told me about his story, which was the fact that he deployed to Afghanistan over 4 tours. And he went undiagnosed with PTSD for about 7 years. Got to the point where he had turned to alcohol and his marriage was falling apart. And when he finally chose to get some help, and once he got help, he began to turn his life around. And by his own admission, when he was at his lowest, the only thing he was qualified to do was dig ditches. Now, this guy was a special forces operator in Afghanistan. And the only thing he could do was dig ditches at that time. And again, he turned his life around and became an entrepreneur. And I met him at Stanford Business School. And one of the challenges that we see is that the current gold standard for behavioral health, particularly conditions like PTSD, are self-reporting surveys. And so that introduces several challenges. It introduces bias. How you respond to that survey may change depending on the day. And there's also a lot of stigma around our current practices with behavioral health, and everyone's symptoms are different. In fact, Todd is actually a success story because in our country, there are 22 veterans that commit suicide every day. That's almost 1 every hour, because largely in part because they just fall through cracks, they get missed. What we like to say is our current system lets people fall off the cliff, and then we have an ambulance waiting at the bottom of that cliff. Now, what if we had technology that would allow us to identify individuals way upstream and put some signs and barriers at the top of that cliff? And I also would like to say that PTSD is not just a veteran issue. That has come to light because of the last year and a half with the COVID pandemic, and particularly first responders, essential frontline workers, and hospital workers we've seen increased rates in post-traumatic stress disorder. So now to our technology. So our company, we've licensed a patented test for post-traumatic stress disorder from Mount Sinai School of Medicine, which we're calling TruGen1. And we took this IP and we actually expanded from 3 genes that are focused on PTSD and added another 1,000 genes that are correlated with other mental health conditions. So our company, we're laser focused on PTSD at the moment, but I want to emphasize that what we've built is a platform technology. We've also built a bioinformatics engine, which we're calling TruBase, which allows us to ingest the genomic information, analyze it, and apply AI and machine learning for predictive modeling and to generate a report for researchers in clinical use. And this is how our platform works. You get a blood sample, you sequence it, and you integrate it into our TruBase platform, and you're able to pull out actionable insights for the clinician and researcher and generate a report. So we believe through the power of genomics, this will again change behavioral health, bring it into the 21st century and allow for earlier identification for risk of developing conditions as PTSD, and also apply genomics and personalized medicine to the behavioral health space. And the thing that we're really excited about is that through the power of genomics and everything that we've learned through this technology, we can actually get down to the biological underpinnings of diseases like PTSD. So this is our market size, TAM of 64 billion. So very, very large market. Mental behavioral health is becoming much more in the conscious of people in light of the pandemic, as I mentioned before. And it was estimated by 2030, prior to COVID, that there would be a $6 trillion cost burden to society because of conditions like PTSD, 13 times greater than that of cancer. So where are we from a commercialization standpoint? We've actually recently closed 2 contracts with the Canadian military to do some, for research use only, to do some research looking at PTSD and other neuropsychiatric conditions within Canadian Special Forces. We're working with the U.S. Department of Defense right now, who provided us with about 600 PTSD blood samples to include in our studies. We've also established a collaborative research and development agreement with the VA, which we're working right now to get funded, hopefully through the VA, and perform a multi-site study on using our TruGen1 test. And we're also working with healthcare systems such as Sanford Health, and having initial conversations with Renown Health as well. This is our team. As I mentioned, I retired after 23 years of service. I also served as the Chief of Staff of the Defense and Veterans Brain Injury Center, where I managed about 300 people. And that was the position I retired from. I also served as the Chief of Neurology Devices at the FDA for, I was there for about 10 years before moving back to DOD. Our Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Anna Clario, 30-year Army physician who retired in 2019, served as Command Surgeon of the Army National Guard, served as Deputy Surgeon for the Army in Europe, and literally also wrote the book Women in Combat, because obviously conditions like PTSD and mental health impact them as well. In fact, women are twice as likely to get PTSD, and these are some of the things that we're looking at as a company as well with her help. And Dr. Tashaka Cunningham, who's my co-founder and Chief Scientific Officer, Princeton and Rockefeller graduate, spent about a decade at the VA as a scientist. He's a molecular biologist, and also did his postdoc at the National Institute of Health and had some time in pharma. And real quickly, our scientific advisors, Dr. Florian Holzbauer and Dr. Richie Yehuda, who are the inventors and who are been consulting and advising us as a company. Dr. Maheen Adamson, who I work with at the Defense Veterans Brain Injury Center. She's also works at the VA and at Stanford University as affiliate faculty. And then Dr. Parsabetti from the Broad Institute, who's also an investor in us. And a very quick, sad story, her husband was a Marine and was suffering with PTSD for a number of years and ended up taking his own life on Christmas while she was pregnant. And so she learned about what we were doing and immediately invested in our company. Here are some of the strategic relationships I already mentioned. We've had investors, Viking Global, Stanford Health is an investor. Bluebee is the company we've partnered with to build our bioinformatics platform. They recently exited and sold their company to Illumina. Our company also has been through the Illumina Accelerator. So Illumina was one of the initial sort of investors in our company, and they're still a partner with us. And as I mentioned, we're working with some of these other partners like the Canadian Military, VA, and we're also working with the University of Maryland on a grant right now. So just to sort of summarize our milestones, we've raised 2.5 million, a little bit over that, in seed investment last year. We were also last year awarded a grant, and we're applying for other grants this year. And we established our partnerships with Stanford Health and the VA. And we also closed contracts with the Canadian military worth about 2.3 million. We've earned about 700K in revenue so far. And in fact, it's about 1 million now. So I need to update this slide. And we also submitted our pre-submission, 510K pre-submission package to the FDA. And so next year, we're preparing right now for our Series A raise and going after additional contracts. Thank you. Do you have any questions for me?
Thank you, Charles. That was an amazing presentation. Really appreciate it. Thank you for your service, and I'll open questions up. John.
Sure, thanks. Nice presentation, Charles. Any early results from your trials and your tests already that you've done? Any data that you can disclose?
Yeah, so one of the great things is that a lot of the, we were able to license the technology. So a lot of the upfront investments occurred actually from the VA, organizations like the VA, Mount Sinai, and Department of Defense, who founded a lot of the studies that contributed to the intellectual property that we were able to license. So what we've done right now is we're actually working with Stanford Health, on a validation. We just finished our analytical validation, and now we're transitioning to clinical validation as well on a patient population. We're hoping the VA will be that partner for that clinical validation. So in terms of data, we have the publications from the original founders in the technical documents in the patent. We're generating our own data right now, and we're working with the CRO currently at this moment. And very soon we'll have the data from the analytical validation that we could share.
Charles, what can you tell us about, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Sorry about that, Cornelius. What can you tell us about other technologies out there that you would consider competition or other threats to your success?
Yeah, so there are quite a number of different types of technologies that are trying to work at this problem. Most of them, in my opinion, are still more sort of, I would say, the foundation are still survey-based in terms of the identification. So, there are groups who are looking at things like medical devices, I should say, that would listen to your voice and how you're responding from an audible standpoint. And there's also other technologies that look at, sort of like your heart rhythms and things like that. But I think the thing that's unique about what we're doing is we're not just looking at the DNA, but we're looking specifically at your RNA, which is a level upstream, I would say downstream, I should say, from DNA. So we're looking at expression and not just the SNPs. For those who are familiar with DNA and RNA, and so that's very exciting because that also ties into the to proteomics as well. And the platform we're building allows you to not only digest the DNA, RNA, and proteomic information into our platform, but from a very great multi-omics approach, because we don't think there's one piece of the equation that will sort of be the home run. We do think it's a sort of a multi-omics effort here. And so we're building out that platform. So I think we're the only ones that are really doing this laser focused on behavioral health. There are other companies that have been focused on oncology and cancer, but we're laser focused on mental health.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Real quick, Cornelius.
Yeah, just a quick question. If you could, Charles, go back, great presentation. If you go back to the side with the technology, with the platform, that slide right quick, I just had a question around the collection piece.
Yes. Excuse me. Hold on a second. This is not it, but
The one, I guess.
yeah, I see it. There we go.
Yeah, just wanted to, yeah, that's it. So you said basically, just could you walk me just quickly just through the workflow? Individual goes into a clinical office, get a blood sample, process.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so essentially, as of right now, the technology is based off of blood. We are looking at possibilities in saliva, but right now it's blood, and that's where we can actually extract, have more success in extracting the RNA. And then once we extract the RNA and prepare it, we are able to run the test through our sequencers in our CLIA lab. And as you know, a lot of information is generated when you sequence RNA or DNA. And so that information is fed into our bioinformatics platform, which we have a beta version of, and we're continuing to build out. And we've also partnered with an AI machine learning partner as well, who are building models for us at this moment, so that we can identify other discoverable insights from that DNA. But for right now, what we have, we can run our test and identify the expression of those three specific markers to PTSD, plus the other 1,000 markers that are associated with other mental health conditions. So, and we're reporting just on PTSD at the moment, but we're trying to build out the platform using PTSD as the first test case. I would say the beachhead, and then we'll sort of go from there. So that's sort of how it works. I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I have plenty more, but thank you so much for covering that.
No
I really
problem.
appreciate it.
You can follow up.
All right. Yeah, I do actually, Charles, I do have one follow-up question that I just sent you in the chat, and I'll relay that back to one of the judges, but we do need to move on. Great presentation.
Thank you.
Our next presenter is, got out of order here, is Jack Donaldson with Sanare Biosciences. Jack?
Hello?
Hello.
Yeah, I still see Southeast Science up on Pinnacle. How you guys doing today?
Doing well.
Good, good.
He looks like you're a little busy.
I'm trying to share the screen. Are you able to see it?
Not yet.
Let's see. Looks like I'm in.
Do you Do you want me to share it?
Yeah, well, I'm sending it over because I made one quick update to the slide last night. Yeah, you can go ahead and share it, and I'll just go off of what we have because
Okay.
for some reason I'm not.
Okay, I do see your screen now. Do you want
New share.
I unshared?
Yeah, and there it
There
is.
we go. All right.
Okay, perfect. So, yeah, so my name is Jack Donaldson. I'm the founder and president of Sanare Bioscience, minority-owned pharma company working on research around cannabis toxicity. Recently in the news, everybody's pushing towards federal legalization of cannabis. And we've been working for the past 3 years on a molecule that helps with reducing the negative effects of cannabis toxicity. When I first initially got into the space, people were all looking towards, hey, let's create products, but I was looking at it from a different view of how it's going to affect the hospital. So I've done a lot of work in Colorado, in Denver, and kind of based the model off of how can we be the face of safety and the importance of research about this topic. So cannabis toxicity, usually you see it, I get it daily because I've been paying attention for a while as far as being in the news around cannabis toxicity and the negative reactions. It causes an increased hospital visits, and it costs the hospital with something it's not life-threatening, but it definitely is uncomfortable. You hear stories of people that eat edibles or go out to different California or Colorado states where it's legalized, and they have a bad experience. So it's happening to a lot of people. A story yesterday come out in Florida where some candy was given out at a school, and many of the kids were affected. So just the packaging and the issues that are happening in the industry, nobody's looking at it from a safety side. Some really good news happened Friday. I don't know if it's good news, but a company just received $100 million to address the issue out of the UK. And it was just, I feel like a little further along because I've been doing the work and I've seen what they're doing and know that we have a good narrative and a good space, and you'll go further along in the process to kind of understand. So that the problem is cannabis toxicity because of the misuse of cannabis. The market opportunity is 22 million cannabis users in the United States and growing. Increase emergency room visits since the legalization of cannabis. And in 2020, cannabis sales had reached 17.5 billion in the US. And it's projected even more because of the pandemic and because of what happened last year. The target is even higher for 2021. So we have Retexo is the solution. It's the drug, our flagship drug that we're working on. The FDA approved us for animal study. So we're in the process of getting some animal work started, and the capital raise is really around that, getting the animal work done so we can look to present the results. We already have used the product because it's a kind of a similar to a Narcan model, a product that already exists that we're using for a new indication. So it diminishes the psychological and physiological symptoms of cannabis toxicity. When you come to the hospital now, it's really just stabilize and give them fluids and have them count do ABCs of 1, 2, 3 to make them feel like they can discharge. So we used it about 2 years ago in Colorado off label and was able to have a case study that only in one reduced from 6 hours to 2. Now so that's big news as far as for the hospital to be able to know that this is something that can help them reduce costs and of course help the patient not being agonizing and in pain from the cannabis toxicity. Some of the milestones, FDA approved Sanare Bioscience to start an animal safety study. And hopefully when we give those results, we'll be able to fast track the drug to market based on we're just updating a lot of the safety work that needs to be done. So that's exciting. It's the fact that we're not starting from scratch, so it could be the timeline will definitely be a lot faster, and we know it works. It's just that we have to update the new safety profile. Now we have a patent that's pending for repurposing this drug for this use, and I'll go ahead and publish a case study of us using it from the instance that we did in Colorado. Once we start the animal work, we're applying for SBIR in September. Funding. NIDA seemed to want us to, or they actually encouraged us definitely to submit. So we're getting that together as we speak. I'm set up to talk to some of the state medical societies about this issue, and then about cannabis safety and the importance of research. So that'll be happening next month, state of New Jersey. And then I'll be looking to pivot to do it in other states that see that's a need for, especially in Virginia, where we're based out of Richmond. So I want to kind of be the face of this issue and getting in front of it before it's a problem like alcohol or tobacco. Just different problems that have occurred of misuse in the past. So we want to be the face of that. So the business model, of course, is R&D company. My background has always been in supply chain for the last 15 years in healthcare. So I'm not a doctor, but I saw a problem and I understood the hospital could definitely value something like this, and insurance companies as well. And then, we plan to go into the hospital market, vet market, pharmacies, and eventually extend to consumers once we're able to build the value within the hospital. So my team is, I'm the innovator, the founder of the company, but a chief medical officer is Dr. Melissa Clark. She has a lot of experience in healthcare and population health. We have someone that's not listed is Kenan Hurd. He's the chief toxicologist and emergency medicine doc out in Colorado, who's on the front line of it. And he's somebody on the advisory team, Dan Blue, counsel in North Carolina with regulatory, with pharmaceutical raising capital, whatever, around pharmaceutical companies and healthcare experience. And then a really key contributor is Candace Edwards, who is on our advisory board. She's been 40 years in regulatory affairs and for Teva and for Amneal, and brings a confidence that we can get this product to and through FDA. The growth projections, of course, we mentioned. I believe we can do 33 million total sales if we're able to do the OTC extension, but even without 20 million with the record to the hospital by 2025. So this is my rationale. I base it off of Colorado because that's the state that actually we've done a lot of the work in that records the hospital visits, and we're able to take a snapshot of what we could do in the marketplace once approved. And the capital raise really is for the whole regulatory affairs, contract manufacturing, operational cost, and our goal is to basically showcase the evidence of how well it works and come to the market with a solution and be the face of safety around this issue. So I want to open up to any questions you may have.
Any questions for Jack?
Sure, Jack, I have just a couple, but I'll just ask one simple one. The money that you're competing for here today, is it strictly for, obviously it's the animal studies, that's what it's going towards?
Yeah, it would go towards the animal studies. Animal study is priority number one, and just painting the picture to be out there, so advocating and talking to the people about the importance of being in front of an issue before it becomes a problem.
If no one else has a question, just a quick, simple, basic question about toxicity. Just for my education, you say the toxicity issue comes as a result of misuse.
Mm-hmm.
Are there also a smaller population of folks for which cannabis toxicity arises not because of misuse, but just because?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, mostly, I mean, the occurrences happen where you see in real life of daily news of people just packaging is wrong. Is that before, when people used to be in marijuana, it'd be 5%, 3% THC. Now it's 80, 70, and the misuse is actually, it doesn't come from always just an accident. Sometimes you can go to a dispensary locally, and the people that are giving out the products, it really don't, it's no rhyme or reason. They'll give 80 gummies to a 75-year-old that might have other conditions. And it's just the misuse and the education that is missing. And I talked to a lot of the heavy hitters in cannabis, a lot of the cannabis companies, and it's not priority. So that they don't want to get the message because they feel like it slows things down. But I feel like the best products that can be out needs research, because if you get a blackout early, then it's going to, even make more people naysayers about it. I talked to AMA 3 times, the former president of AMA 3 times in the fourth quarter last year. And she was like, Jack, you're spot on, but it's just getting somebody to champion and get behind it. But I think the approach is good. And I believe misuse is, is edibles. It's the people that are telling you what to do, not being knowledgeable. What I've learned, because I've been researching even a lot longer than a lot of the doctors that I work with, is that they haven't been able to study the issue because it's always been banned kind of in a lot of the education. So some of the lot younger doctors actually know more about cannabis than the older doctors. So it's a bridge that needs to be built to make sure the messaging is clear on how it can be beneficial or not. But I want to be on the side of championing good products. And I think this first one gives us a really good platform to be the face of that, and to create a good model, especially in Virginia. I use that as examples because they're the first in the South, but if you hijack it with the people that priorities are wrong,
sure,
it'll be forever lost. And I want to be the face of saying, hey, we can help from the hospital. We want to make sure we get in front of this before it's a problem.
Great, thanks, Jack.
Any other questions?
All right, no other questions. Okay, well, thank you, Jack. Really appreciate it. Next, we have MedTrans Go, and I'm not sure who's presenting. Or to start off, we have Dana Weeks, and we have Dr. Obi, and I'm going to brutalize your name, so I'll let you take it from there.
Dr. Obi Ugwunale. I'm going to be presenting, so let me go ahead and share my screen. All right, can everyone see that?
Yes.
So my name is Dana Weeks, and I am the CEO and co-founder of MedTrans Go. I'm joined by my co-founder, Dr. Obi Ugwunale. MedTrans Go is a business-to-business platform solving the problem of cancellations in healthcare with the technology for healthcare appointment optimization. Our healthcare system loses over $150 billion a year in missed appointments every year. And over 50% of that is due to a lack of transportation and a lack of foreign language interpretation. This hit home for my co-founder 5 years ago when he had 2 back-to-back surgeries canceled in one day. In one instance, it was because a neighbor canceled the ride at the last minute, and in the other, it was a Spanish interpreter that didn't show up. As a board-certified orthopedic surgeon, he didn't feel comfortable putting his post-operative patients in a taxi or rideshare, and there really was no on-demand solution to solve for these cancellations. All of this lost he and his surgery center over $100,000 just in that day. It was not only valuable money that was lost, but time, and ultimately the patient didn't get the care that they needed. So he, like many doctors and healthcare facilities in orthopedic surgery or cancer infusions or transplant surgeries, can lose over $30,000 to $50,000 on a procedure. So being able to insure and spend $100 to $800 to make sure these patients get there makes sense. These cancellations, there are over 3.6 million missed appointments every year. 27% of them are from specialty areas, and the average provider loses over $150,000 a year in these missed appointments. And if you look at the hospitals, they're losing over $1 million a year. So we created MedTrans Go, which is a business-to-business cancellation solution, offering vetted, certified transportation providers and interpretation in over 100 languages, including American Sign Language. So in addition, last year with COVID, we added prescription delivery and telemedicine to ensure that whether your facility is open or closed, we've got you covered. We're able to connect a high value need to this fragmented low-tech ecosystem in healthcare. We have a simple business-to-business revenue sharing model where our customers, the hospitals, the surgery centers, and facilities, allow for the vulnerable patients to get to their appointments through a network of providers of services in transportation and interpretation. We have a tech-enabled platform that's in web and mobile apps with logistics, auto dispatching, and billing with a patent-pending technology. We've had significant progress to date since we launched our MVP in 2018. We got initial customer feedback. We learned much from these customers and found that product market fit. With COVID, we expanded the platform to include telemedicine delivery and started to make some key sales hires. And then in Q1 of 2021, we launched our second generation app that allowed us to grow to capacity. And now we're servicing in urban and rural communities throughout the Southeast and beyond. We have 90 customers across 7 states, and we just onboarded 136 new locations that we're hoping to get started soon. We have 2 major health system contracts in place and many in the pipeline. We have over almost 1,300 transactions just in 2020 alone, and have a network of over 100 transporters and interpreters. Our revenue to date tells a similar story. We learned about our product in 2019 and 2020, and then at the end of 2020, as we started to prepare for the launch of this version 2.0, we've started to gain extensive traction and have exponential growth in both the transportation and the interpretation. So we've been able to raise $1.3 million already, which has been primarily self-funded through a safe note. And now we're looking to raise 1.5 million so that we really can access the demand that we're seeing from some of our larger hospital contracts and systems. We have a strong leadership team in healthcare, technology, and business, including myself, who has healthcare and technology business experience at Pfizer and AT&T, and Dr. Obi Ugwuanali, who is in private practice here in Atlanta, and has worked in the hospital systems here as well as chair of orthopedics at Northside Hospital. We also have Robert Brown and Tyler Magruder, who have been instrumental both in sales and in growing our network of service providers and an extensive group of advisors. So that is our product, and we're looking forward to hearing more and answering any questions that you have.
Any questions? Looks like we have another one that just covered it perfectly.
No, I have one question, Dana. Great presentation. I'm very interested in the demographic that you all have been able to service. Have you all seen an uptick in individuals in vulnerable populations, i.e. Black and brown communities, underrepresented communities, or those that do not have, just really want to understand that demographic that you all are seeing an uptick around through your partners there, since it's a B2B market, if you have any of that data.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I will add quickly, and then I'd have Dr. Obi speak a little bit more to this. But I think part of how we were able to see this problem even more so is because we were able to see that this was disproportionately affecting Black and brown communities and communities where English is not their first language. And so ultimately, while our customers are healthcare providers and facilities, the problem that they're having because of challenges that the communities are facing are exaggerated. And so the wonderful thing about being able to work on this project is that not only are we solving this healthcare problem for healthcare providers in allowing them to maintain that revenue that they would have otherwise lost, we're really impacting communities that are important to us, and communities not only of color, but communities in rural areas and in areas that it's harder to access healthcare, and it's disproportionately affecting Brown and Black communities.
Yeah, I'll add, Dana covered everything, but it's actually supporting the literature. Most of these cancellations occur within people from lower economic zip codes, rural communities, and Black and Brown communities. So we're solving the problem of increasing revenue for hospitals and surgery centers and doctors, but also making sure that these people that don't really have the luxury of having someone from their family take a day off from work to take them to places, and people who English is not their first language. So yeah, so that's a really great question.
Dana, this is Ashley Hancock. How are you handling sales, customer acquisition and the sales function?
Obi, do you want to take that?
Yeah, so we've been fortunate that the past couple of years, a lot of customer acquisition came from just my network, just knowing doctors. So from that, we then had expansion of our services to other states where our current customers that are here said, hey, we like what you guys are doing, let's expand. So just a lot of that data that Dana presented earlier is from our customers that wanted to scale to other states. And recently, we just got 2 huge hospital contracts. One is University of Colorado Healthcare System, where we're transporting oncology patients that are having difficulty getting to their chemotherapy, which is life-saving, plus they're losing money. So we did a 6-week pilot. They loved it. They gave us a 1-year contract and wrote us a beautiful reference letter. So we now have a full-time sales director that's taking that reference letter to all the 42 National Cancer Institute hospitals throughout the country, so we can do the same playbook. And then there are over 100 cancer hospitals, but not necessarily NCI certified. But again, the UC Colorado is NCI certified, so it's a major hospital. So that's a huge feather on our wings. And plus, Emory University is talking to us now for their kidney and liver transplant patients and transporting them. So we're going to use those case studies to now go to other hospitals for similar things. So our pipeline is incredible. It's just a matter of like what Dana said, having the manpower to actually do the operations and get more business in the door.
Nice, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry, anything else for anyone, from anyone?
I'll just add, if there aren't other questions, sure, to follow up on Ashley's question. I mean, part of the reason why we're raising funds and why investment or this pitch competition would be so helpful to us is that right now we've been able to, through these personal networks and just growth from our current customers, grow in facilities, especially around the Southeast. But we do have requests and demands from other places and other locations for larger hospital systems, and the ability to have that cash, the ability to have money to be able to access those and really develop those and integrate those into our platform on a customized basis is where we really can see incredible attraction to grow really exponentially to our capacity.
And this is John, great presentation. Just one quick question, which probably won't take longer than a minute that you have left. Who's your main competition? What's the market look like out there? Are you going to be competing against some of the larger anthems and whatnot with platforms that they're developing for their systems? What's going on?
Yeah, Dana, do you mind if I answer this?
Yes, please.
Yeah, no, this is a great question. Yeah, so what we've created, my vision was always, to have a platform that really at its heart was a compliance platform, making sure that there's a compliance mechanism in place so that the proper service providers provide the service necessary. So we now have a platform that are primarily based on non-emergency medical transportation companies. So that immediately eliminates the majority of the competitors, because those other competitors, although larger, use individuals. Number two, we have a compliance mechanism that it's a 10-point system where you have to meet those criteria in order to be on our platform. And finally, we now have the ability to determine, is this a procedural ride or a ride where a patient is vulnerable? Did they have anesthesia? Things like that, so that we're now able to appropriately assign the service provider to that particular patient. Unlike other companies that are transportation companies solving a transportation problem, we are, on the other hand, a healthcare problem with a platform that can actually integrate some of those competitors into our platform and then determine what service is appropriate for them to. So we are perfect for partnership, strategic partnership, and also potential acquisition in the future by any of those that want to play in this space in a safe and reliable way, which is our motto.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Appreciate it, Dana and Dr. Obi. Fantastic presentation. Glad you're able to make it. Our next presentation actually found themselves in Dubai and so cannot present today. So we're going to skip ahead to VoiceWorx with Samuel. I'm gonna try it. Ayodeji. Samuel.
Okay, let me get off mute. Yeah, hi, good morning, and thanks for having us. Let me try to share my screen.
There you go. You should be able to share it now.
Okay, cool. So let me know if you can see my screen.
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. Okay, yeah, good morning. My name is Sanare Bioscience, and I'm a co-founder at VoiceWorx.ai. I've also got my co-founder on the call as well, Jeremiah Oyemade, and we together lead the work at VoiceWorx. So you're probably familiar with how voice is transforming the consumer space and how we interact with technology. And we're seeing the demand for this also in the enterprise and specifically in healthcare. There are different aspects of healthcare that we're seeing voice being able to play a role. If I'm a payer and I'm dealing with a community, you want to be able to use voice to easily access information rather than having to log into different mobile apps or having to log into a website or trying to remember your password and things like that. Voice becomes a natural way to easily get information that's useful and actionable for patients. We're also seeing in care environment, whether it's long-term care or even senior living, using voice as a way to interact and kind of augment the traditional methods of engaging with patients is starting to prove to be valuable in these environments. We're also seeing needs in the cases where patients have either they have a chronic situation or they have a long-term care plan, or maybe in the case of clinical trials, we're seeing opportunities to use voice to drive increased engagement with patients and to also, in some cases do diagnosis of very basic symptoms to be able to either get appointments set up or even get some guidance to patients that are based on either AI or based on preset, decision structures. We're also seeing opportunities in off-time patient engagement. I need to deal with my pharmacy off hours. I need to call in at midnight for an appointment with the doctor tomorrow morning before I go to work. We're seeing voice AI being able to come in and basically deal with triage some situations and take some actions like booking appointments or dealing with prescription requests. Now, what does it take to build all of these types of scenarios that we're talking about? In the past, this would involve, expensive systems, sophisticated, expensive AI engineers, and this take time. And that's what VoiceWorx is doing. We're really taking all of this and we're solving it. We're making this very simple to implement with a no-code platform that's easy for for hospital systems or enterprise system to self-serve and to implement on their own. So this is the general idea of our platform. On the left, you've got, a variety of users. There could be patients, there could be physicians, there could be pharmacists, caregivers, all using various channels that's appropriate at different times to interact with the different systems that you have on the right side. So you might be, a physician that's looking up information from an EHR, or it could be a patient that's looking up membership information from a CRM at a payer. Whatever the scenarios are, we've seen physicians that are interacting with medical devices. We have the solution that allows all of that to be plugged together without having to write any code. And in terms of cost and time to market, that's a huge savings and a huge impact on how quickly enterprises are able to innovate. And we're already seeing that with some of our customers today. So what are the types of use cases that we're seeing in the insurance or payer side? We're seeing a lot of use cases around benefits, plan information, claims management, or even just a digital front door to help deflect calls off of their call centers and really drive costs down. In hospitals, we're seeing opportunities where we're actually able to deploy devices like Alexa or Google devices in the hospital, so that instead of a patient having to try to get out of bed to get the attention of their physician, or instead of physicians having to put on PPE and go into a room to figure out what's going on with a patient, they can easily interact through these devices and have two-way interaction. Or in some cases, digital assistants can actually triage the needs of the patient and prioritize them to the nursing station and really help manage their workflow. We're seeing opportunities in assisted living of really just improving the quality of life and also driving additional engagement and adherence and just helping to create a better care circle, both internally within the environment and also with the external family network. We're working with multiple device manufacturers currently to integrate voice into their platforms. Whether it's devices that are deployed to patients or devices that are deployed into hospitals. We're currently working in the GIH space with a manufacturer that has devices that's used for oncology and being able to use voice to drive a lot of that interaction. So it frees up their hands to perform their procedures. We also saw demand in COVID, through the COVID period, with enterprises that manages populations or even hospitals that are trying to triage requests that are coming in, volumes of requests that are coming in. Our voice assistants are being deployed to help address some of those issues. So you can manage your limited human resources. So we started building about 3 years ago. We finished our engineering last year. We completely bootstrapped our solution. We found our product market fit. I've got to a point now where we have paying customers that are coming on, trying our solutions, and are then willing to go into contracts with us and start using our system. We currently have an implementation with one of the largest medical manufacturers that's of about $50,000 to basically roll out our solution into about 300 physician hospitals, physician practices to use voice to interact with their platforms. So what are we looking for? We're basically looking to raise a $2 million seed round this year. And since we've already built our product, our focus is really on building our sales team, launching marketing. And as we continue to get more feedback from our customers, expand our engineering team even further. Who are our competitors? We play in two spaces, actually. We play in the healthcare space, and the same product that we have place in the enterprise space. So we have competitors from the healthcare side, Orbiter, Ava Health, players in this market that have raised significant amount of money. But we've been able to come with a product that actually supports self-service and no code, which really opens up the market much further than what they're able to do. We also have some competitors in the enterprise space that our product also differentiates against and gives us a lot of room to really compete and take a market share. We've got some other competitors that have already been acquired, and we're working with partners like Amazon and Microsoft as well, and Google, who are playing strategic roles in where our product fits into the market currently. Here's our team. We're mostly from the engineering side. Myself, past experience, Amazon AI, IBM, Accenture. My co-founder Jeremiah has past experience at Kaiser, American Express, and we also previously started a technology company together that does work in the broader technology space. And Sanjay is a solutions architect, and Amy runs our delivery. So that's it. Thanks, and open to any questions.
Any questions? This is becoming a theme. Someone will think of one here in a second. But is there anything else in the meantime that you wanted to go, anything else that you'd like to say? Or if that covered it? Or Jeremiah, do you have anything you want to add?
I think Sam did an excellent job of presenting the product and our space. And yeah, I'm really just be really excited to hear what your feedback is, and if you guys have any questions or is there any clarifications that we can provide about the product or the space or the technology behind it.
Yeah, this is John. Just what's the average unit or system cost for a customer?
Yeah, so it varies. We have customers that are deploying into physical locations, and it depends on how expansive their deployment is. I talked about the one deployment that's about 300 locations. That's about a $50,000 deployment. If we have we're looking at in the future for deploying to hospitals where there could be thousands of rooms or beds, and that could go further higher. We're currently working with a medical device manufacturer that makes like knee implants, and they're looking at millions of customers that would use this assistance to kind of interact, and those deals could grow exponentially, really depending on how far they roll it out.
Sure, and I know it's custom to the client's needs, but perhaps, I mean, taking the hospital example as an example, and per bedside, I guess, per bed cost or per cost.
So we do have a licensing model. We're a SaaS platform, so you could deploy from our cloud, or for healthcare we also deploy on-prem, but we have a licensing model of $15 per user, right? So if you can kind of multiply based on that. Obviously, if it gets into volumes, then we can work out pricing deals. But our standard enterprise pricing is $15 per user per month, and also depending on what product features they're using. We have a standard product that's $5 per month, and then we have an enterprise product that's $15 per month. And we would basically price a deal for a customer. And we also provide implementation services. If a customer doesn't want to self-serve, we help them accelerate building their product on our platform and then turn it over to them.
Thank you.
Sure.
This is Russell. Let me get my camera on there. So I see you have different platforms or different solution options. What's the breakdown? Where are you spending your time on the health solution primarily at the moment, or are you spreading that out and focused on the platform itself?
Yeah, so when we actually started focused on health. And as we started to build, our first products, and we went out, we realized that to play in the healthcare space, we needed to deal with a lot of compliance and a lot of unique requirements. So at that point, our product was already ready for enterprise. So we started deploying to enterprises, and then we went back to build some more into the healthcare space. So now we're kind of seeing about 40% of our demand, coming from healthcare, right, and about 60% coming from the enterprise side.
Okay.
And within healthcare, we're seeing kind of physician interaction is one side that we're seeing, and then kind of hospital deployments, and then patient usage from home where they're still connecting back to the system. So those are the three aspects of the client base.
All right. Well, thank you very much, and thank you to the judges for great questions, and appreciate everybody that's joined us today. So for those of y'all the presenters that have hung on, we are the judges are meeting now. We're not announcing the winner until 1 o'clock. And so you did get an invitation to the full conference. It's coming from SE Color Pitch and Women at Southeast Life Sciences Conference. So if you look at that, you can get onto the platform. Otherwise, I will let everyone know by 1 o'clock. So thank you very much, everybody, and judges, I'll see you in a couple minutes. And with this, we will close our first SE Color event. Thank you.
Jason, I just wanted to step in and just say congratulations to everybody. Great job. Thanks for participating. And I loved hearing about your businesses.
Yes.
So did my 18-month-old.
Hey, great.
Thank you.
Everyone did a great job.
Great job.
Y'all take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.